Hey guys, so a woman who participated on MTV's 2016 documentary Transformation went viral for her detransition story. But before we get into details, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of our videos. Okay, so the show revolves around a non-binary stylist who helps a group of transgender teens and young adults get life-altering, gender-affirming makeovers. Milo, a biological female, was one of the teens featured in the show. Here's a clip from the show.
The first thing that I think I said was, "So do you want a penis?" And he was like, "No." So that was my first thought. You know, I've learned in the past months that it's not that. You know, it has nothing to do with that. It's who you feel like you are inside, your gender.
Like, I cannot imagine living my life as female.
At times, he feels like he could hurt himself, you know, just because of the way he feels inside. And I've heard a lot of horror stories about, you know, the percentage of trans kids that commit suicide.
I'm hoping for a more masculine appearance. I feel like I already look a little bit masculine, but I think if it could be a bit more masculine, I would feel a lot more self-confident.
So at the time of filming at least, it seems like Milo was sure that she didn't want to undergo any physical changes or surgeries to match her new gender. She just felt uncomfortable in her body and the way she looked. That's completely normal for any teenager who goes through puberty. Now, personally, I don't think she looks masculine. She might look a bit tomboyish because of the way she dresses, but I wouldn't describe her as masculine. I'm not sure about how she came to the conclusion that if she feels more comfortable dressing like boys rather than girls, it means that she is a boy rather than just a tomboy. So Milo eventually was on testosterone and steroids for 7.5 years and had a double mastectomy done. However, because of the pain and cramps caused by the testosterone, she had to get a hysterectomy last year. 8 months later, one of her ovaries ended up twisting inside of her and ruptured and needed to be removed. Here's Milo now after deciding to detransition.
Like, as long as I can remember, I've never liked anything feminine. I've always kind of been like gender neutral with my interests. I was always really into animals and like dinosaurs and stuff. I hated dresses. I hated anything that was considered feminine. Anything like girly, I just didn't like. As a kid, I never felt like I fit in anywhere. Even within like my own friend group growing up, as all of my friends who were girls went through puberty and started liking girly things, I was never like that. And it would make me feel really out of place. I didn't like how I was looked at by boys. It made me very self-conscious. I was also always really shy. Growing up, I was a very shy kid, especially in middle school. I just never felt like I fit in anywhere, so I was very shy and I was reserved. I gotta say, after transitioning, when I started looking like a man and sounding like a man, the shyness kind of went away and I did get some confidence back. But now I just wonder if that's because I feel almost like I'm in a costume. That what I've done to my appearance and my body has almost been a survival tactic, or a form of protection against unwanted attention from men.
This is exactly what I was saying. She was fine the way she was. She was just a normal teenager going through puberty, feeling uncomfortable and all over the place because of the hormones and body changes. She was just trying to escape from all the male attention, escape from societal pressure and expectation, escape from bullying. Unfortunately, the only answer she thought she had was gender transition. a concept that was fed to her through online sources, so-called online friends, and even doctors and therapists. Which child wouldn't be convinced then that this is a solution to all her problems? But that's where parents need to step in. They need to help their child accept the changes their body is going through, accept that life isn't always easy. Not everyone will like you. Some stages of life are more difficult than others, but eventually things get better. But at that age, teens are more likely to listen to their friends or peers than their parents. There are also parents who push their kids into this. Nowadays, even before the kids come out and say anything, the parents have decided to raise their kids without gender or transition them when they are just toddlers or preteens. Unfortunately, Milo received so much hate from the trans community that she took down her video. And it's not just Milo. Many others who have chosen to share their detransition story have been met with hatred and anger. One example is Ash, who shared her story.
Hello, as some of you might know, my name is Ash and I am a detransitioner. I recently made a little video on this topic, not really explaining much of it, and got quite a bit of backlash in my comment section, so I just want to come on and share my story. And some of you guys, you're gonna hate me for this, but I need to speak the truth. And I don't care what you say in my comments, I'm not gonna turn my comments off. Growing up, I didn't really show any signs of gender dysphoria. I was perfectly happy with my body and being a girl, and of course I was uncomfortable with puberty and stuff, but that was for other reasons. Every girl is uncomfortable with their changing body. And when I was 13, I started to struggle a lot with depression, anxiety, that sort of stuff. I spent a lot of time on the internet, specifically TikTok, way more than I should have, rather than going out in the real world, and especially with COVID and everything else that was going on. Now at the time, there were a million videos of all these trans people coming out, and because I was so unhappy with myself and who I was, I thought that that might be what was wrong with me, and I convinced myself that that's what was wrong with me and that's what would fix me. And I went really far to pass as a male, to the point where nobody that I knew that I was born a female. Here's a little picture of me from that time, had the facial hair and everything. When I first transitioned, I really didn't have any issues with my body, but as I went on, I realized that I needed to fit into this box if I wanted to be a male, and because of how my body did not fit into that box, I became increasingly more uncomfortable with it. But it wasn't gender dysphoria, it was me trying to fit myself into a box that I simply didn't fit into. In a way, I sort of brainwashed myself into thinking that I had gender dysphoria. And naturally, this brought me into a really bad place mentally, where I started struggling with drugs, self-harm, suicidal ideation, all that stuff. And I assumed this was because I wasn't male enough, but it was really because I wasn't a male at all. I got on testosterone when I was 15 years old, and the thing that I think is absolutely wild is that I went to one appointment before I was given my prescription. One. And you might be thinking, oh well, they probably asked you a ton of questions. Nope. They barely asked me anything. I basically walked in there and was like, I'm trans, and they were like, okay. They didn't question me. They didn't sit down with me and question and talk, like, is this really what's right for you? They were just like, okay, this is the next step in your transition. We'll give it to you. I was on testosterone for about 6 months, and luckily it didn't affect me super bad. I can still talk in a higher range and pass as female. Of course, there's a lot of changes that are permanent that I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life. After about 2 years of living as a male, I realized I was wrong. But I didn't come out about that right away. I stayed living as male for another year before I really finally decided that I needed to do this. And it was one of the most scary things that I ever did. I've faced so much backlash. I've found it that people are so quick to accept trans people, but so quick to criticize detransitioners. Once I detransitioned, all my mental problems were gone. I'm happy. That was my issue. The fact that I'd convinced myself that I was a dude.
Wow, I'm so glad she was brave enough to be open and honest about what she went through. But it's just wild to think that without any follow-up questions or therapy sessions, they just decided to start hormones. And again, she brings up the point that it's very normal to feel uncomfortable and not like your body during puberty. But that doesn't mean you have gender dysphoria. And it's interesting that contrary to popular belief, her suicidal thoughts, drug abuse, etc. was after she started transitioning, not because she was prevented from doing so. And she came to the right conclusion. She thought it was because she wasn't male enough, but it was actually because she wasn't male at all. More detransition stories are gaining attention now. This shouldn't be a surprise though. Recent studies have shown a dramatic increase in the detransition rate from less than 1% in 2015 to approximately 5 to 10% in 2022. Another study called the continuation of gender-affirming hormones among transgender adolescents and adults, done on 1,000 transgender individuals, found that the 4-year gender-affirming hormone continuation rate was just 70.2% when compared to older studies that claim that the rate was almost 98%. Here's another warning from a detransitioner.
3 things I wish I knew before I transitioned to male. 1. That injecting myself with cross-sex hormones actually was harming and damaging my perfectly healthy body. 2. That changing my identity and changing my body wasn't actually going to heal the pain I had within myself. It was just an escape that created actually more trauma for me. 3. That it was okay to be a tomboy and not fit into society's beauty standards of what a woman was supposed to be like. That I was perfect the way I was and I didn't need to change myself.
Every story seems the same. They feel uncomfortable in their own skin, have mental health issues, low self-esteem, and don't accept themselves the way they are. And then they find this info about transitioning online or through friends, and then they are made to believe that their problems will magically disappear. Here's a heartbreaking testimony from Abigail Martinez, who unfortunately lost her daughter to this ideology.
My name is Abigail Martinez. It has been 3 years and 164 days since I lost my daughter, Jaylee. I miss her every single day. Let me tell you how she died. My daughter was murdered by a gender ideology. CPS took my daughter when she was 16 years old. It was held by her public school counselor and LGBTQ group rights and another trans-identified girl. My daughter was taken from her loving home because the state of California claimed I was abusive for not affirming her trans identity. I lost my daughter over a name and a pronouns. Even after I promised to call her a male name, it wasn't enough. My daughter was not a boy trapped in a girl's body. She had mental health issues. Against my consent, my daughter was given testosterone instead of therapy. The LGBTQ group used her to raise money for them. Look at the poor reject trans boy, they said. Why are there so many transgender in foster care? Because this state take them from their families, tell them to run, then steal them. Parents are given one option to treat their distressed child, affirm, drug, and remove their healthy body part, or else lose your child. The abuse claim against me was finally dropped, but it was too late. The damage was done. By then, my daughter was in a horrible mental and physical pain. My daughter knelt down in front of a train. She was murdered by gender ideology. I beg you, stop pushing gender ideology. I don't want any parent to feel what I feel every day. Affirmation is not good for the health, safety, and welfare of any child.
This is absolutely devastating. I can't imagine the pain and suffering she is going through right now. She tried her best to save her child. She gave in to whatever they asked, but it was not enough. Gender transition is trading perfectly healthy bodies for mutilated ones. You do irreparable damage to yourself, undergo multiple procedures to fix failed surgeries, lifelong hormones, injections, infertility. I mean, the list goes on. The biggest loss is that you lose your sense of self. You don't know who you are. You think you were a mistake that needs to be fixed and end up living with regret, anger, sadness, and hopelessness. Children need to be accepted for who they are. If they are suffering or in pain, they need to get the right kind of help or therapy to help them overcome their challenges. Telling them to transition is the opposite of acceptance. It teaches them that they were born wrong and deserve to be rejected unless they give in to this madness. This needs to stop. So, what do you think about this? Why are more people detransitioning? Should children even be allowed to transition? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you like this new format, let us know by liking and subscribing to our channel. Until next time.